Writer's Dream. This is a show where we talk about how you write your book, how you publish your book, and how you market your book. We are on YouTube. Just search The Writer's Dream, or you can search my name. I'm Linda Maria Frank, and I'm the producer and mostly the host on the show. We are also on Facebook. If you have a question for us, we would love to answer your question or address your issues, and just put that question on Facebook. Just search The Writer's Dream. Today we have a really special show. This is our 3rd anniversary. I cannot believe that it's 3 years, and we've had about 100 authors that we've interviewed, and you can get some really good advice if you watch those YouTube videos. My guest today, who's really one of the motivating factors behind the Writer's Dream, she helped me get it off the ground, is Dina Santorelli. She was our first hostess.
Hi, Linda. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
She's a great contact. It's great to have you here. So what's been going on in your life, Dina?
Oh, gosh. In the last 3 years, let's see. I self-published my debut novel, Baby Grand, in May 2012. So it's been out just over 2 years, and I'm happy to say it's done very well. It's a top-selling organized crime thriller on Amazon Kindle. It's been a top-rated thriller also on Amazon Kindle. So and I've been blessed with good reviews and lots of excitement, and I've gotten a lot of support from all around the world, which has been wonderful. You know, because self-publishing, as you know, can be sort of a very scary venture. You know, there's so much help. I mean, the self-publishing industry has changed so much in the last few years. It's unbelievable from when I self-published Baby Grand to now. But it really, it's you know, it takes a lot of work to be successful as a self-published author.
Yes, it does. Tell us about Baby Grand.
Baby Grand is a crime thriller, and it takes place in New York. And basically, the story revolves around the kidnapping of the governor's infant child, and which is related to a mob organized crime plot that takes place in New York State. I sort of came up with the idea when I was sometime in the 1990s, when I was working full-time in the city, and I was meeting my husband for lunch in Bryant Park one day, and I was sitting there waiting for him, and I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if there was an abduction that took place here in the middle of the park in front of all these people who were busy doing other things and would not have seen it? And that sort of was the impetus for the book. And quite a few years went by from the time that I came up with the idea to the time when I finally wrote the book. But that's sort of my process. I come up with ideas and I put them away on little tiny pieces of paper. Back then, now I sort of just hide them away on my computer. And then when it's time to write, I go to those ideas, which usually I've come up with years and years ago.
Yeah, it's interesting what kinds of things motivate you to write a story. I have the same thing. Usually for me, it's settings also. I'll be sitting somewhere or watching something, and I'll say, boy, that's a great place to have a crime, or wouldn't it be interesting if... I had the same thing. I mean, settings to me. In fact, I just wrote a couple of blog pieces on settings and how settings really, the setting can be a character in the book.
Of course.
And I mean, my 3 books have very strong settings. The first one's Fire Island, which is beachy.
And you were very familiar with, right?
Yes, yes. And the second one is Manhattan and Brooklyn, which I was also familiar with, and the third is Turkey. And in the blog, I talk about the fact that, yes, your setting can be a character, but someone asked me about writer's block, and I said, you know, I didn't have writer's block in the first 2. And that's because I knew the setting so well that the setting would carry me on to the next thing.
That's terrific.
I would write some description and it would carry me on to the next thing. But in the third one, I visited Turkey. I researched it, but I had to keep going back to my notes and the guidebook and the pictures and whatnot, because Turkey's not part of my soul as the others were. But your setting can really move your book along. So your setting in the city, I know I read your book, and the whole scene where she's kidnapped is like, you know, because you could, being a city person, you can visualize this happening to you.
I agree, and it was always interesting to me how things can happen with so many people around and not seeing it. For instance, there's another scene in my book that takes place on a beach, and a child gets lost. And that sort of stems from something that happened to me in real life when I was on vacation with a bunch of friends, and we were at the beach, and we all turned away for a moment to watch a storm that was approaching, and my daughter sort of disappeared. And it was really literally 5 seconds. And she had sort of wandered off on her own without any of us seeing, and she's perfectly fine now. But that moment actually sparked a scene in Baby Grand, because it was so just, it was hard. It was probably the worst 5 or 10 minutes of my life. But yeah, we're very much inspired by the things that happen to us, the places we go, I find.
I find myself watching when
Yeah.
especially when I'm by myself, watching people. And sometimes I actually see things where I think I should intervene.
Right, right.
And then either the situation settles down, or for some reason I don't. But I always promise myself that if I see something I really don't like, I'm going to. I did report an unattended piece of baggage once.
Good for you.
This is my contribution. But getting back to self-publishing.
Yes.
What a bee.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's it's so funny. So many people consider self-publishing to be the quote easy way out, and conversely, it's just one of the hardest things you could do as a writer. It just takes a lot of commitment and a lot of work. But for somebody like me, I tend to be sort of an entrepreneur, self-starter. I thrive with the business side of things. So,
your background is in journalism.
Yes. Yes, and that's come in handy
as well.
Yeah, that's come in handy as a self-published author.
So I went from teaching, where I had a salary and a captive audience, to why don't you read my book? So, and I went a different route from you. I didn't use Amazon. I used another company, and I've come to realize that using Amazon is the key to getting Amazon
and it's so
push
easy
for you.
Yeah, and it's just very easy.
Yeah.
They make it very intuitive.
People say to me so often, because I do this workshop called So You Want to Write a Story, and it's about self-publishing, and we end up telling the folks the easy part is writing the book, or the fun part is writing the book.
I know.
But in a way, that's not really entirely true. It's a big part, getting that manuscript and getting it into a format, and
Exactly.
a form that you can actually publish. That's a lot of work. However, you have complete control over that. And then once you, of course, when you self-publish, you have complete control over the publishing process itself,
Right.
picking the book cover and the format and all the rest of it. But once you publish, then marketing becomes, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but the internet has made marketing just an unending maze of possibilities. You can sit at the computer and never leave for weeks.
That is true.
And not
That is
even
true.
scratch the surface of those people who are out there who want to they want you to blog, they want to interview you. Some of it's free, some of it's cheap, some of it's incredibly expensive.
It's funny. I teach a continuing ed course at Hofstra University on how to self-publish a book. And I find that sometimes students come into my class and they'll say to me, well, I don't really like to go online. Are there things that I can do? Are there things that I can do to market my book offline? And of course there are, and we go through all those things. But I always say to them, why would you not take advantage of marketing opportunities that are, 1, easy, 2, free, and 3, present your book to a global audience?
That's right.
And that's what the internet does, and it's a gold mine for self-published authors.
I think there is a real need for a course in marketing your book on the internet.
Yeah.
And actually there's webinars up the wazoo.
That's true.
I just, in fact, downloaded a whole group of webinars on how to use Pinterest to push your book.
You wouldn't think so, because Pinterest is so image-based.
But that's what they said. There's a whole part of this that teaches you how to create the image, and then it actually gives you the statistics of, first of all, it's mostly women who go on Pinterest, and the things they look for most are recipes and cute animals.
And I have to say also cute guys, because one of my most repinned image on Pinterest is an image of Liev Schreiber from the show Ray Donovan. I have a board on Pinterest where I talk about the actors that I would like to play my villain in Baby Grand, and so there are quite a few people there, and Liev Schreiber, that photo has gotten so much attention in the last few months. It's unbelievable.
And it is. It's all graphics, and so But I think that people will say, what is Pinterest? People who are not computer savvy, what's Pinterest? This astounds me, but I have people who have a book in place and they don't even know how to use Facebook. Now, of course, this was me a few years ago, but I was, kicking and dragging. I was brought to use the internet because I don't. The problem with me with the internet is, and the computer is sitting there for hours.
It is
and
time
hours
consuming.
and hours.
It
and
is.
I've learned to sit for an hour and get up and go weed the garden or something and come back.
And come back, right.
And then I'm okay with it, but there's so much. And it is, once you get the hang of it, it's so easy.
It really is. It really
I just
is.
went to somebody's house the other day to show her how to do an attachment on her email.
Oh.
And when she did it, she said, it's so easy.
Right? Look what I've been missing.
And she spent 3 hours trying to figure it out.
Wow.
And I said, it's always one little thing that you have to click on that you don't know about. And
Right.
once you know it, it's easy.
Right.
So, but that's true. That's a great source.
I've always said that I don't think my book could have been as successful as it is without Facebook and Twitter, especially in those early months. Because of those social media sites, I was able to get the word out just so quickly and easily because I had already developed networks on those sites just
Yes.
for personal use, for fun. I was
Yeah.
Facebooking, cat photos and, what everybody else does. But in terms of business and marketing, it was just incredible.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And if you're not taking advantage of that, and I understand people don't want to be on the computer, like you say, for hours at a time, but at least, I tell people who say that to me, you know what, first thing in the morning, do a tweet, or, maybe at lunchtime, do another one.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be all day,
Right.
but just every little bit helps.
I try to keep my tweets down to things that I either am offering people. For instance, my website has lesson plans based on my book.
From your teaching
From my
experience,
teaching
right?
experience. So every once in a while I'll say, hey teachers, school's starting. This is a way to get the kids
Yeah.
really interested and stuff like that. And then events that come up. And, so I try to tweet out mostly stuff that people might be interested in.
That's the way to do it. I mean, you should really limit the promotional posts that you do. I mean, you don't want everything to be me,
Buy my book,
me.
buy my book.
Exactly. I mean, those people at parties. Those are the people you sort of shy away from that talk about themselves all the time. It's no different with social media.
Sure.
It's,
Yeah.
it's how you can engage with one another, offer information as opposed to asking for information.
Yeah, I'm fortunate that I have this show because I can
Yeah.
always reach out to lots of different websites to authors and say, I have a show. If you're interested, contact me and we'll see if we can get you on the show. And I have
Yeah.
things to offer. I have lesson plans. I have book discussion questions. I have a forensics column because I taught forensic science. That's how I got into mystery writing, because I loved forensic science, loved Nancy Drew when I was a kid, decided, now I call my books Nancy Drew Meets CSI. And so I now do a short forensics column that's usually based on a case and a particular type of evidence, and that's all on my website and my Facebook page, and
That's
that's
terrific.
fun. That's fun.
And for somebody like you, I would say if you go on Twitter and you're looking to sort of promote those things that you do, hashtags are just so important in terms of finding like-minded Twitter people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tweeters.
Yeah, exactly, tweeters. So you can you can say, hey, I have a new item on my blog about, this particular case, and you can do hashtag teachers or hashtag whatever it is. You find the correct hashtag. And that's a way to grow your community. Little things like that, people just don't realize.
That's right.
And they mean
And that's
a
why I
world of
think it would
difference.
be, you should do that. You should propose to Hofstra that you teach a course.
I actually do. I teach a book marketing boot camp at Hofstra.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and it's because it's so important. It's actually something I teach as part of my self-publishing class, but I've actually pulled it out to do like a one-day seminar on book marketing. And I also now I'm doing a one-day seminar on editing because I work as a writing coach, and I find that there are some mistakes that beginning writers seem to make all the time. And whether you self-publish your book or traditionally publish your book, you really want that manuscript to be as clean as it can possibly be. And there are these tiny things you can do to make you seem less like a newbie and more like a
That's
professional
also
writer.
the major criticism of self-published books is
Yeah.
the editing process and the look of the covers.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say that the cover of my third book is a finalist in a cover contest.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I didn't draw it. I have a,
But I'm sure you oversaw the concept.
yeah, my illustrator's name is Marianne Savage, and she does murals and
wonderful. That's wonderful.
illustrations. She does nice stuff. So I'm happy from the standpoint, I'm happy for her, I'm happy for the book, but I'm
Yeah.
also happy for self-publishing in that the cover is actually good enough to be in a contest. But those are the two things I hear as criticisms. Well, it really doesn't look like a traditionally published book. And
I think you're right. I think that's changing. I mean,
oh,
from the
yeah.
time we started the show 3 years ago to now, there is just a plethora of companies and individuals out there that will help you as a self-published author do your book, whether it's design the cover, design the interior, format, edit. There's a whole range of services available at different price points.
That's right.
So we're not really alone anymore. We're not like this maverick author.
Right.
We've got
It's not
a team.
vanity press anymore.
No, no, no.
It's an industry. I mean, the last book I did through Archway, which is a division of Simon & Schuster, and they had various packages that they offered as far as, editorial services and,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But my suggestion to anyone who wants to self-publish is shop around.
Of course.
Because there's a lot of stuff. I'm a big proponent of this now. If you have a pile of grandma's letters, okay, and you want to
Yeah.
turn them into a book and you don't know how to do it, look up writing courses. Memoirs are huge now. There's a huge part of what is popular in the writing field now. So I say go and look for Free and Cheap.
Oh,
That's my
sure.
whole idea. I'm going to do I think I'll do a blog on Free and Cheap.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, self-publishing does not have to cost an arm and a leg. You
Yeah.
can actually do it all for practically nothing. I don't advise that.
Right.
I mean, you should take advantage of those services that are out there, especially if you're not,
If you're
a
not
good designer.
If you're not a professional
Exactly,
journalist, like, you have a
exactly.
background where you've done editing, you can do all those things. And for me, it was jumping into the deep end of the pool with no writing experience and not even really knowing how to use quotation marks. Really. So, and I always thought, my thing was that, well, if you're a writer and you have somebody's going to publish you, you have a traditional publisher, isn't it their job to edit your book? And of course, things have changed.
Yeah, yeah.
Changed, and I think we are in a time where the publishing industry doesn't know where they're going.
It's really a state of flux, I think. And
Yeah. And I find that because I do a lot of events, I do a lot of fairs and events, book fairs where I can sell an actual book. People will ask me. I would say 25% of the people say, is this on Kindle? Is this on Nook? So I know that they're not going to buy my real book. They're going to go online, which is okay.
That's
with me.
wonderful. They're buying it.
But you're selling your book for $10 or $15 or $20, and what's happening online is that they're offering the book for $2.99 or $3.99, or it's a giveaway. And so
Well, yeah, I agree with you.
This is the basis of the lawsuit between Hachette and Amazon about pricing of books.
Well, the great thing about self-publishing is the royalties are much higher than authors receive in traditionally published deals.
The royalty isn't so much affected, but the marketing is affected in that you're not, if you have a garage full of self-cover books, they're not as easy to sell as.
No, I agree. I guess what I'm thinking is because I also do vendor fairs and things like that, and you'd be surprised, and I discount my books when I go to vendor fairs. So the profit that I make on a $10 book at a vendor fair is actually less than the royalty I make on a $2.99 book that I sell on Amazon.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely
so,
right.
Yeah. So
it balances out. And
it has to do with costs of, producing the book, as an actual hardcover or a paperback.
I tell the people who are buying the book, I said, the book is free. It's my signature you're paying for.
Oh, I'm going to use that. I love that.
They laugh. Or I say, and someday when I'm famous, this will be worth absolutely nothing.
Or I thought you were going to say the other thing.
No,
It'd be worth
because
priceless.
they laugh at that. So I try to make my purchases laugh. So what's in the future for you?
I'm actually finishing my second thriller. It's a standalone thriller. It's not attached to Baby Grand at all. And once I complete that, I'm hoping to self-publish that, but I'm not sure yet. I'm going to start writing the sequel to Baby Grand. When I first conceived Baby Grand, I thought of it as a standalone.
There has to be a sequel.
Well, I thought of it as a standalone, and then once I wrote the ending, I thought, you know what? I think this is going to be a series.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah.
At least has to have a sequel because of all the little things you left hanging.
Well, it definitely won't be a trilogy. I mean, it's wonderful that you put together a trilogy.
Well, I want to do number 4
Annie.
as well.
Really?
I have I have what I think is a great idea. And, when I started to write, I said, I don't want to write adult books because I think it's just too hard to write a really good adult book, and I'm not a writer. So I love mysteries, and I know the children's literature tends to live on.
That's true.
So I said, let me do this because I really feel confident to do this. But now, as I've been writing, I'm a better writer now, and every time I write a book, I take a writing course, and I do as much as I can to improve my writing. I'd like to make the fourth book an adult book because Annie has gotten older through the 3 books.
Kind of like Harry Potter, or watching, her age from book to book.
So
I love that.
I'm thinking of a book. First of all, I want to set it on Long Island. I want it to have to do with the aerospace industry that existed during World War II. I want her to reconnect, not physically, but through letters and whatnot, and some stories from her mother. She's going to reconnect with her mother, too.
Oh, I love it.
Her great-grandmother, who was a Rosie the Riveter for Grumman.
I love it.
So I love the idea of going and doing the research on this for this book, and I have an idea for the plot. My son's been a big help to me because one of his hobbies is military history, especially airplanes and whatnot. So I'm thinking that this could be an adult book, but I think even if it's not, it's going to be a fun book to do.
It sounds
and different. And
very nice.
So
exciting.
I hope
Big
so.
things.
I really hope so. And what I'm finding through all the things that I've been doing is that I've discovered Mystery Writers of America New York chapter. And they have so many exciting things going on. I'm so glad I joined, and it's so nice to talk to other people who write mysteries.
That's one recommendation I would actually have for other writers. There's so many organizations out there that do what you do, whether it's Mystery Writers of America, Thriller, Thriller Fest every year, romance organizations. You should definitely find others
Your
like
niche.
you.
Yeah, your
find your peeps. And get out there and talk, and network. And I'm not a big networking fan, but it's fun, And I find that the writing community is so giving, and they have a generosity of spirit, because we're all in this together. We're not really competing like other industries.
Also, I think writing is a very isolating, and insular experience. And then finally, when you get a group of writers all together,
we're like blah 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 blah.
Oh my God. The talking is like, it's overwhelming, but you learn so much.
I agree.
People are willing to share.
Yep.
It isn't the idea that I'm in competition with you.
Not at all.
And
not at all.
If my book does well, yours won't, or it's nothing like that, because one of the things I say when I do the workshop on self-publishing is it's usually in a bookstore or a library, and I go like this to the audience: look at all these books.
Yeah.
Look at all of these books. Think about the number of ideas that are possessed in these books and the different ways that they're approached. And I said, but how many of these books do you think are bought within one day?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't even.
So I'm trying to, excite them about writing, but at the same time make them feel realistic about the fact that there's a lot of books out there, there's a lot of competition. So
yeah, but don't let
if you
stop
get your book published, if you get your book published and you actually have people, you're out there on the internet and you're marketing it, it's a huge accomplishment.
It is. It is.
Even if you never get to bestseller status, it's a huge accomplishment.
I agree. And plus, you love the process, just the writing. And for me, the business side too, I enjoy. So.
I love the process because I go to a very different place.
Yes.
You go into the story, into your character. My main character is a 17-year-old girl, and one of the things that I wanted to do with the books was I wanted to create a role model for girls, because I taught for years, and I taught girls, and I tried to inspire them to go into science, because I know this is the coming field.
Yeah.
And so many of my girls I felt close to. Some of them I still communicate with. And I just, when I go into the world of Annie, and people say to me, is Annie you? My girlfriends who are in my book club, they will always do my books. When my books come out,
oh, that's great.
And it's really a very sweet experience, and they'll always say, she's you.
There's
or
always
is
a
she
piece
you?
of us, I think.
And I said, Annie is the teenager I would have liked to have been.
But
So
I'm sure there's a piece of her.
Oh,
I mean, a piece of you that's in Annie.
Big piece
yeah,
of Yeah, she's the teenager I would have liked. Had I been a daring type of person, I would have maybe gotten myself into trouble the way Annie does. But that's a special place that you go.
I agree.
So it's exciting in so many ways. For people who want to be creative, for people who want to accomplish something,
Yeah.
goal-oriented. You have to be goal-oriented to write. You have to be disciplined.
I always say that anybody can start a novel, but not anybody can finish one. Yeah, there's a lot of determination and commitment that's needed to do it.
Well,
it's not coal mining, but it's still it's very difficult in its own right.
I think I sometimes when I'm writing, I'm so glad to get outside and just sweep the driveway or rake some leaves or something, because it's mindless and yet I'm accomplishing something. Writing has to be a discipline, because you have to sit and do it, and then you also have to get through the hard parts.
Oh yeah, and there's plenty of hard parts.
Yes.
And it's just, for me, it's all consuming also. I mean, I always compare it to that scene in the movie A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe, where, he's at the end of his life and he looks to the right and he still sees those people following him. It's kind of like that with my characters. They're always following me, in a good way, but it's just constant, especially when I'm in the thick of a book.
Yes.
And that's just the way it is. But I enjoy that.
You wake up in the middle of the night.
And I'm thinking about people who don't exist. It's so funny.
Is that called insanity?
It could be.
Well, we have a few minutes left, and I'd just like to say that I appreciate your help with The Writer's Dream, and also you've been an inspiration to me.
Oh,
and
gosh.
You've given me such nice little hints along the way, and I hope I've done some nice things for you.
Like I said,
hiring your son to put my email addresses in the
I use my
computer.
son too. He's a great proofreader. I mean, utilize that family.
And he knows the computer. But for The Writer's Dream, please, we welcome authors to come and be on the show and tell us about your writing experience. And
thank you.
I hope that we both become bestsellers one of these days.
We'll come back in 3 years and
another 3 years with another 100 guests, and maybe we'll figure out how to put the show on in one piece instead of 2 pieces. I have Mike working on that right now. So
thank you.